everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with 3 S's. I'm your host, Chantele Francis, here with my co-host, Mel B, to talk to Kira, the second traitor that was banished from the manor of the Traitors Season 2 of Canada. Kira, I thought you were going to get to the end. I thought you were going to do it, but we're seeing you here. Oh, heartbroken. How are you doing today?
Man, confused.
Mm-hmm.
I just watched the episode a few hours ago, and I'm like, I'm not sure what went wrong. I'm just not there.
Yeah. We're still trying to figure it out too. Like, I gotta tell you, I cried this morning. I was not expecting it. I was on the treadmill. I was watching it, and you and Netta are like fighting, and I was just like, this is such a good episode. And then your name started, I could cry again talking about it. Your name started coming up on the card, and I just started crying because I think I'm so in awe at the job you were doing. And halfway through the season, I was like, she's going to go before Michael John. She's going to make a mistake. And then you just kept doing so well. I think it was just like you were the traitor that I wanted to be. And it was a great episode, but I was really sad to see you go this morning, I have to say.
I was very sad to see me go too. Yeah. I was like, oh, this is going to be hard to watch because I knew my POV of that day, but I hadn't seen it. And I had a lot of questions beforehand, but watching it, I have even more questions now. Like my brain does not comprehend how it all went down because I'm like, there was no facts.
Yeah.
There was nothing. There was nothing to hold on to. I'm like, y'all just kind of grouped together and said, let's vote somebody out because let's vote this specific person out. And we're not gonna change our minds. I'm like, I went into that round table. I did not have a shot.
No, it was already decided.
Yeah, because I was watching myself. Because for months now, I've been thinking, I'm like, what could I have fixed? What could I have said at the round table? And watching it, I went, nothing I could have said would have swayed any of them. Just because that was the problem of the faithfuls most of the season. They weren't listening. Yeah. Which fair enough. They got a traitor out, but I'm like,
they shouldn't have got you out if they were playing better. So we see like in the episodes that Netta started to being a little bit suspicious of you when you were going so hard for Michael John when he was making all these mistakes. Is that something that you regret? How are you feeling when, you were kind of not letting Michael John off the hook a couple episodes ago?
No, because let's be honest, if you've seen Big Brother Canada, you know who Netta is.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it. I knew what the kind of person she is. So that's why I was like, the person she's portraying on the show is not the person that she was on Big Brother Canada. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't have trusted her. I don't believe that she would have kept me around. There's no part of me that believes that I would have been brought to the end with her. Mm-hmm. She needed me out, and that's fair because if we got to the end together and we did the whole share steal, I know she wouldn't share, and I know that I wouldn't share because I know I've seen her on Big Brother.
Right.
I can't trust her.
Yeah.
So you watched Big Brother? Do you watch other reality shows? Did you watch The Traitors before you came onto this? All of them?
All of them.
Yay, you're one of us.
Survivor, Traitors, The Challenge, even the dating shows like Love Island, all the seasons, all the different countries, all of them.
So you recognized everybody then pretty much when you got to the manor, right?
Yeah. That's why I was like, okay, I know how you play. I was so disappointed because the only two people that had actually watched Netta's season were me and Kirkland.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she got lucky that I was also a traitor, so I didn't say her name because I'm like, I did think I was doing I was like, oh, let's work as a team until, you couldn't anymore.
I was surprised that you had waited so long to get her name planted. Like I figured when you were going for Michael John that maybe like a couple of little Netta slips here and there might have kind of helped plant the seed a little bit for people.
I didn't want to be the first one to say the name. I wanted to, because her name was never brought up.
Yeah,
so if
hard.
For me, it was when Michael John got brought up, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense because everyone brings him up. So it's not ridiculous that I'm going after him.
Mm-hmm.
But it is ridiculous that I would go after somebody who's really not been named,
Mm-hmm.
which might be her downfall, because why Kira all of a sudden? And why did you get it right? Like how did you know?
And so confidently too.
So confidently.
Yeah. But these faithful worry me, Kara, because I'm like, that's to us, that's the obvious. But in that manner, they seem to be just walking around like this. Like
it was hard to watch,
Mm.
especially because the entire time I'm like, if it's not me that wins, I want the faithfuls to win. So that's why I was, even as I was leaving, I'm like, well, at least I'm going to give them all my information, the stuff that I have noticed in a faithful's POV.
Mm-hmm.
So that, because last thing you want is to be that person that like underlines Netta.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to write her down because I'm like, I'm not going to be the person to do that to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's just nasty, and that's not the person that I am. So
yeah.
So what did it feel like being at that round table? Because I know my heart was beating. I was sweating. I'm like, I was so stressed out at that round table. It was like 20 plus minutes. What was it like being in that room? Because like you could suck the air right out of it because it was intense.
So good.
Intense is the right word. I didn't see it coming. So let's be perfectly clear. No one had mentioned it to me. I had not heard my name. Nick hadn't heard my name. I had like a really tough day, as in like everything was going wrong. And I'm just like emotionally exhausted. And I'm like, okay, let's just get this over with. And then Trana coming in right away. And as she started saying the words, I'm like, oh, she's coming after me. I knew it was going to be me. And I'm like, okay, let's prepare. Okay, yes, I'm a faithful. Like, be ready for it. But I had already my information on Netta. And so that's why I was like, okay, I'm ready for it. Like, you want to fight? I'll fight. I wasn't going to do this now, but let's do it. Let's do it. And so that's why I'm like, okay. I felt like it was a little bit of a chess match. And if we had more open faithfuls, I may have had a chance.
Yeah.
Well, I actually thought before the voting happened, I thought that like we're just gonna have you guys go back and forth, and then
Lauren.
in the end, it was gonna go and be Lauren that was taken out of the game, and then we're gonna see you two in the conclave being like, "You came for me, you came for me." Like that's what I was gearing up for. And then when I saw your name come up, I was actually shocked because I just didn't think that her argument in the roundtable was strong enough to get everybody to actually write your name down in the end.
That's why I'm so confused with, like, I was fine with how everything happened until I watched the episode, and I'm like, none of this makes sense to me, because as somebody, if I were in their position, that wouldn't have been enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have went with like the people that I would have been a little bit more sure of, Cedric or whatever, the people that have been named over and over again. And I was like, that just doesn't make sense. Doesn't.
They must have arranged like, no matter what, this is who we're doing, and you know, who cares what everybody says. You know, they must have just decided that. Mm-hmm.
At the round table, because it made my jaw drop when Cedric's like, we all came in here to like kibosh somebody basically, and that was supposed to be Kara, but I'm not buying it. What did you feel in that moment when he literally said, we all have a plan to like vote her out, but I don't feel comfortable with it? Like, what were your thoughts then?
I knew it.
Yeah.
Like not that I knew that it was coming that day, but I'm like with how it happened, I'm like, there was something that just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. Yeah, and while I was trying to fight for myself, I'm like, oh, I can see no one is listening. No one is like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. I'm like, I'm making some really valid points here. Can I be validated? Like, can somebody be like, yeah, you're right. Only Nick and Lori.
Yeah.
Now, at the beginning of the season, you said that you would throw your brother under the bus. You would take him out if you had to. Do you think that maybe if you'd allowed him to go instead of Gail, that maybe the outcome might have been a little bit different?
No, because Gail has said she didn't care if either of us were traitors. We were both her top people.
Yeah.
I thought it was fair that, okay, we had two names, both of us. I had Trana and Gail. She had Nick and Gail. Okay. You saved Trana, I saved Nick. It's very fair. So no.
I'm just curious, you know.
Yeah. Nick is my ride or die. So
of course.
So when Michael John was voted out, you guys chose to murder. Did you not want to like pull Nick in? Like talk to me about Nick being a faithful, and if you would have wanted him to be a traitor with you, or like, were you stacking the deck so that no matter what, you got one of you on, or?
No. Let me be perfectly clear, okay? My brother is a sweet soul.
Yeah.
He cannot lie for shit. Like, he is a terrible liar. I love him so much. This is a good thing. In the real world, it's a great thing that he's not a good liar.
Yeah.
But I could not recruit him, and he did not want to be a traitor in the first place. Like, he had mentioned it. He's like, I don't want to be a traitor. I'm not going to put you in that position. Mm-hmm. Do I think that it would have been helpful for me if he was a fellow traitor? No, because I do think that he would have been revealed very quickly, and then it wouldn't have been beneficial, other than, okay, we got another traitor. Yeah. But it would have been obvious that he would have been a recruit, because his demeanor would have done a full 180, and it would have been so obvious that he was a recruit and there was still other traitors there.
Yeah. Now, if you had recruited, who would you might have wanted to bring in with you? Who would you have wanted to work with?
I do think Gail would have been a really fun choice, because, man, I love that woman. 10 out of 10. But
we thought that's what you guys were gonna do. Well, we thought that you guys would have gotten out Michael Sean.
Yeah, we thought he was gonna be gone, like, you know.
We totally thought that Gail would have been brought in like episode 3 or 4, but yeah.
It was actually absurd how long Michael John made it, especially with like when multiple people were naming his name. I was like, okay, me bringing it up is not going to be super weird. And then all of a sudden it's like, why is she gunning for him? I'm like,
everybody put his name.
With like how this storyline ended up, I'm like, okay, there's a saint that took the money. There is that took the shield for the money. And then that night they murdered
someone from the group that had
somebody
they had the information.
And so it was clear to me that whoever bought the shield was also a traitor. Yeah. Very, very clear to me. No one was thinking that way. I was like,
Lori was kind of, and it seemed like
smart.
Yeah, Lori's like got it figured out, I think. Like she's got it.
Teacher, 10 out of 10. Wow, I love her.
So yeah, she definitely had her finger on the pulse in that moment. I was like, okay, guys, like go along with that logic. Like, you know, they probably, and just like, oh, everybody just didn't think about it.
No, we actually, like, the times that we had an like substance, and I'm like, okay, get it. Like, very excited for you. they would just like, oh, okay, drop it. You're like, okay, well, I'm not gonna make you pick it up again because then it just
looks weird.
Like, okay, an extra week for me, fine.
Yeah.
Shocking. So, like, if you were to play again, would you still want to be a traitor? Would you want to maybe see what it's like to be a faithful? Like, with all your experience now, like, how would you want to go back in again if you'd want to?
Oh, I would absolutely.
I figure.
Like, come on, that was so much fun, and also, like, I made so many friends, and the game is just a blast. I would actually want to go in as a faithful because I feel like I clocked both of them before we were all together. Before I met them, I went, well, I didn't know body language wise that Netta was, but I said, I gotta get her out. She would be the person that I would pick as a traitor. So I said she would need to be out, but unfortunately, not in the cards. But I clocked Michael John before we ever like saw each other, and I was like, oh no. So I feel like as a faithful, I would have gotten them. Don't know if I would have gotten the amount of people. Maybe I would have been a little bit more vocal if I was a faithful. I don't know, but
I don't. Well, it's really hard to say because, you know, if you don't start as a faithful and you're recruited, then you don't know how you're going to play as a traitor. Like, definitely, yeah, you don't know how you'd be if you're actually a faithful from the beginning, for sure. Yeah. I think it would be actually the hardest role to play as a faithful because, like, you have no information. You you have to be worried about being too vocal, but then you also have to be worried about actually outing. It's a harder game to play for sure. But
so many of them were telling me, because they were saying how like it's hard to trust anyone and all these things, and I was lucky enough to actually see people in their true self. Like, a lot of people were kind of cautious around Mike, and they were so, I don't know, they kept their distance from him, and I was like, Mike is such a sweetheart. I don't know how you don't see this, but I have the clarity that they do not have.
Right. Yeah. Was there any banishments or murders that you feel really badly about, or that it was like a hard one to do?
Hard one to do. Pac-Man was very hard because for me, it was very much a game move for me. And it was kind of like a sacrifice where it didn't feel like, oh, I'm just murdering someone because like it's the game. But it was very much like, I need Michael John out, and the best way is to frame him. And it was, Pac-Man and I had a very close relationship, and so that's why I was like, I don't like this. Yeah. And Melinda, I was not intending on voting for her at all, and then Lauren made some really good points, and I went, I gotta, dang, because you see me voting, like, I didn't vote for any of my friends. I never voted other than Lori, but it was to save Aaron. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And Melinda was the only one I ended up voting for as a friend, other than Lauren at the end.
Yeah, that would be probably the hardest part of being a traitor, is like actually making friends with these people and knowing that they are telling the truth, and then still have to kind of follow suit and take them out of the game.
Yeah, it's hard, especially when you know what they're playing for.
Yeah.
That's why when Rab got voted off, I felt so guilty about that, because it was just because of my friendship with her. We got close very quickly, and people were like, oh, that's alarming. I'm like, no, it's just two girls who like really like each other. We're just friends.
Yeah.
I don't know. People that one also hurt, but it wasn't through my own like voting. It was through just being friends, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, so that was a hard one to watch. Like, I'm still not over that.
I was devastated because that girl, she's got such a good soul, and I'm like, why is anyone thinking that she's a traitor? I'm like, there's so many other people that look more
Obvious.
obvious. Oh,
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, you did mention that, when you're coming close to the round table, you were just feeling it was a little bit uneasy. You didn't have as much information as you usually do. Was there at any other point where you had like maybe an epiphany or like an intuition that you might be going home? Like, did you have any psychic hits in that regard?
weirdly enough, nothing was going right that day. Like not one single thing went right. Like my songs weren't playing at the beginning of the day. I would hear 3 specific songs every day and I'm like, okay, I feel good. I would dance it out, just some nerves. And I'm like, let's dance it out. Didn't hear any of those songs. Then I got stuck in the car with Cedric twice. Back. And that was, I had never been in the car with Cedric before. And I was like, this is emotionally exhausting. Like I had such a hard time and I was so tired. I kind of sat there. You can see when I'm speaking to my brother, I'm just sitting there like this. It's because I was so tired. And he asked me, he's like, do you want me to leave you alone? Do you need a second? And I said, no, I'm not. Like you don't take any energy from me, so you're okay. But I couldn't have these conversations with other people because it was just so tiring. And then also I was my nail polish had completely like been screwed up. And I kept picking at it to remove it before we get onto camera. And Trana thought that I was being like nervous. And I'm like, no, that's not it. Just like everything just wasn't lining up. So yes, psychic for sure. I should have
feeling.
Wow. No, I mean, like I find it very fascinating when there are kind of some signs that happen. And so you kind of were foretold what was kind of going to go down. Mm-hmm. Would you have been able to have stopped it? Like if you could go back and maybe,
I don't now. So for months now, I've been thinking, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if I did this? Because I am an anxious person. I do think a lot. And now watching the episode, I went, there is nothing I could have done. I don't think I do. I think that they made that decision and I didn't have a fighting chance.
Has watching it been healing in any way, or has it been triggering, or a little bit of both?
Triggering for sure. I definitely, like, I was actually like comfortable. I felt comfortable with like, okay, you're good. You lost. But you do think of like, oh, what if? But I was comfortable with like, oh, they went into the car. She probably made some really good points. And yeah. But then watching it, I went, she didn't even make good points. How, like, what happened?
Yeah.
There's just so many. Now I'm just left very confused, which is gonna drive my anxious brain crazy.
So if you were to start the game all over again and you were to pick 2 potentially other traitors to work with that you would think now would have the best chance for you to get to the end and potentially win, how would you reconfigure your traitor team?
I would have definitely picked Gail because one, like, even if we were traitor on traitor, like, I still think that we would have that connection. And because I was still willing to make friends with my other traitors, because I find it very odd if you don't hang out at all with certain people. It's like, why are you not? So you pay attention to that. So I still had conversations with Netta. So I feel like I would still have those conversations with Gail and still be like close with Gail. I would have honestly done like a whole ladies thing. If I could have like Lori with me too, we would have had fun.
That would have been fun too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a nice mix, and like just having different strengths and different types of traitors. Yeah, that'd been pretty cool.
And also the whole lady, just women. That would have been epic.
even that though, with them not even maybe considering like, okay, chances are they'd put like, okay, we got a guy out, it would be a girl, like just having even some of that kind of rationales. Like we didn't hear any of it anyways, but I was surprised by how the faithfuls were determining who they were going to banish.
Yeah. And I kind of just went with the flow. I would like speak up here and there, but other than that, I'm like, as long as it's not me, I'm okay.
So I have a few rapid fire questions that we've been asking everybody. Just name one of your fellow contestants that you think fits this description. So who would you say is the most manipulative player?
Oh, Netta.
Most annoying?
Cedric.
The loudest?
Oh, Trana.
Funniest?
Ooh, funniest. I don't know that I'd have an answer. Me.
Which player would you most want to invite to dinner?
Oh, Gail.
And who's the most opinionated?
Trana.
Which player would make the best spy?
Ooh, me.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I can see that, for sure.
And other than who you played with as a traitor, who would you say would be the worst traitor ever?
From other than the
Well, like
people
other
that-
than your traitors.
Out of the faithful.
Oh, out of the faithful. I was like thinking of all the other
No, all the other seasons.
Like, oh my God, I don't
too
remember
hard.
their names. Who would have been a really bad Cedric? He
That's why we were always like, why are you guys going so hard for Cedric? He'd be there's no
Very
way that
clearly
he's
a
a
faithful.
traitor here.
it
And
was very confusing.
In hindsight, who would you say was the most trustworthy?
Pac-Man.
Yes, that's been the consensus, would
Yeah.
say. Well, it's been really sad, but great to talk to you, Kira. Mel, do you have any other questions that you have for her?
I've probably got a million, honestly, Kara, the amount of questions that have gone through my head today. Maybe we'll do a part 2 at some point.
Yeah.
I just want to leave with, from one anxious traitor to another, or to like the queen. It gets better when you get to watch the season after yours. So, like, because there is literally, I did not stop thinking about my banishment and everything I could have done differently until season premiere of yours. And now I'm like, everybody's stupid. This is great. So,
You know what?
you
The
will feel
faithfuls
better season 3.
didn't make everyone look good.
Like you'll feel really good when you watch season 3. You might still have some anxiety up until, but like it gets better.
Fantastic. Unless I'm on season 3 and they pull a Kate from
Ooh, Kate Chastain coming back.
Well, then the anxiety will stay, most likely.
Well, lastly, Kira, do you have anything that you want to share about your experience or your last words?
I had a heck of a good time. I know some people did not like me, some people loved me, but you can't say that I wasn't entertaining.
You were definitely entertaining. Thank you again so much for being here and chatting with us. And yeah, hopefully there's a round 2 in the
I'd love to
near
see you
future.
again.
We'll see.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.